So stocks versus real estate. Which is a better investment today in 2025? And the big fast answer, if you just want to have the go-to answer, is that it actually just depends on a lot of different factors. But I will say is that for the majority of people here watching this video, because I know the typical demographic of people, is that the answer is that it's probably going to be stocks. But it's a lot more complicated than that because there's a lot more that goes into depth about whether or not you should focus your energy to try to invest in the stock market or you should try to invest your energy to invest in real estate instead. It really, really depends on your situation, and that's why we're gonna explore that in today's video in really, really big details. But I would say that if you want the fast answer and go-to, is that it's probably going to be the stock market for most people, with several exceptions. So with that being said, let's just get right to this video. But before we begin, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and let's get started. So we're going to start by talking a little bit about reasons why it might be better to consider investing in stocks. And then we're going to talk about several reasons why it might be better to invest in real estate. And then we're going to end this video by maybe giving a little bit of a conclusion and verdict to which one is actually better. But again, going back is that it just really, really depends on you. But that's what the conclusion is going to be about. But the first reason why you might really, really prefer to invest in stocks is really because of the barrier to entry. And it's really about the fact that especially today, it has a significantly easier barrier to entry to get into investing in stocks than it does to get into real estate. If anything, at the very least, certainly on a financial basis. If you had about $100 and with just even $100 today, you can literally take $100 and buy a fractional share of a stock today by just opening an account with Robinhood, which if you guys don't have an account with Robinhood or Webull, I'll put links in the description below so you can check out those links to maybe sign up and consider for getting some free stocks to get yourself started in your investment journey. But the barrier to entry when it comes to investing in the stock market is just a lot lower, and it's a lot easier for people, especially considering I know that the average audience that watches my video is not particularly wealthy. I know that most people that watch my videos, especially considering that we started as an unemployment channel, most people here are either out of work or are just making a very, very humble salary. The barrier is going to be a lot lower in stocks. Whereas like in the world of real estate, you're going to have to shell out tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy property. Even more true if you live in a place that has a very, very high cost of living, such as I do, being in New York City, which is where I am based out of. So the first reason is because of the barrier to entry. Now, the second reason why you might really want to consider investing in the stock market is really because of the ease and simplicity it takes to get started in stocks. When it comes to the stock market, while it is true that yes, to really, really do well in the stock market, you have to do thorough research. The idea is at the end of the day, at the basis and core, is that if you are very familiar with several companies that you think are going to do really, really well, you can invest in those companies' stock in the stock market by, again, going back, simply opening an account. But when it comes to the world of real estate, there's just a lot of things involved that makes it a lot more complicated to really be able to start. When it comes to the real estate, you have to know things such as like real estate terminology. You have to know how to take out a mortgage. You have to understand credit score. You have to be able to, understand like the laws and the legal side of real estate about what you can and cannot do when it comes to buying your property and when it comes to actually running the property, because some properties, might have a law that allows them to do this or that. There's just a lot more complexity to understand behind real estate. Whereas with the stock market, it's again going back as simple as just opening an account and putting money inside and buying things. So that's going to be the next reason. And then the third reason why it's, you might really want to consider investing in the stock market over real estate is really because of liquidity. And it's really about the fact that especially if you happen to be a younger individual, Stocks are a lot easier to just buy and sell. When it comes to the stock market, you can literally buy stocks by just clicking a couple of buttons, and if you end up needing that money later on down the line, you can sell that stock by simply just hitting a couple of buttons, like the same way that you bought that stock to begin with. With real estate though, it becomes a lot more complicated, because with real estate, you have to learn how to basically put that house or that apartment on the, in the housing market. You have to create a listing, you might have to hire a broker, and there's just a lot more things involved. So when it comes to the real estate, it is not as easy as just being able to open an account and click a couple of buttons. When it comes to having to sell real estate, you might have to start to offer open houses, you might have to allow people to visit your home. There's just a lot more complexity and a lot more involved that makes it a lot more difficult to invest in real estate today. And finally, the biggest thing that we have to talk about in terms of why you should really consider investing in the stock market is just the fact that if you happen to be a younger soul, one of the biggest things is really about history. And it's that historically, especially in the last several years, stocks have been shown to outperform real estate in most situations. In most situations, if you had put a certain amount of money in the S&P 500, you would have came out today, especially because we've had so many bull runs, from like the bull run that happened in the late 2010s to the bull run that happened following the pandemic. I know obviously we had a massive crash and horrible stock market in 2022 and 23, but now in 2024, we are seeing a recovery again. Stocks are reaching all-time highs, and the big idea is that there's just a lot more potential to make more money in the stock market over the long run for the majority of people, but especially for people that happen to be younger. I would say in the age range of 40 and under. So if you happen to be 40 and under, then there's just a lot more potential to make more money. But of course, we do have to consider talking about some things on the opposite side about when it might be time to consider investing in real estate. And I would probably say is that the first reason why you might want to consider investing in real estate is just if you happen to be a wealthy soul. If you happen to be a wealthy individual, then you don't have to worry about the barrier to entry that we talked about earlier, that maybe in your situation, if you have a lot of money to potentially invest, you might consider putting it into real estate instead. The second reason to really consider investing in real estate is just because of the fact that when it comes to the world of real estate, it's just, you need a home to live at the end of the day, but you don't need stocks to live. That's the key thing. So why do I say all of this is that because at the end of the day, if you plan to live in a property for more than 10 years or so, then it becomes even more important that maybe you should consider, if you have the money and the resources and the income and the stability to do so, to just buy a property. Because at the end of the day, with property, we need a place to live. And I think it's very fair to say that one of the biggest goals, even though it's so difficult in today's job market and housing market today to be able to do so, is to still make it a goal to become a homeowner at some point in your life. It's very difficult, but it is something to really be able to consider. So at the end of the day, the bottom line idea is that houses, apartments, and homes, they're a necessity. But stocks, on the other hand, they're more of a convenience to become a wealth builder. But it's not a necessity at the end of the day. You don't need stocks to live, but you do need housing to live. And that's maybe something to consider. And then the next point that goes on to the extension of you happen to be a very wealthy soul when you might consider real estate is if you happen to be an older individual. And why do I say this is that because for a lot of older folks, the goal might not necessarily be to make a lot of money, but rather to be able to conserve a lot of money. So what I mean by that is that if you happen to be a wealthier soul, you may not have enough time horizon to really have to be able to deal with all of these up and down swings that are more rapid in the stock market. Instead, you might be looking for maybe more opportunities to just consider just stabilizing your wealth and protecting it from inflation. In those particular situations, then you might want to consider real estate, because real estate is known that while it is true that real estate can definitely still crash and real estate can definitely still rise, at the end of the day, it is very well known that real estate is still considered a lot more of a stable investment than stocks are. there are a lot of stocks that can decimate to almost nothing. But real estate at the end of the day is just a lot more probable that it's going to increase over time. It may not increase as much as the stock market, but it still will increase overall for the most part. And I think that if you're someone that's looking for stability, especially if you already have a lot of money and you're just looking to protect your money from inflation and just try to make at least some level of wealth, then I think real estate is something to consider. So overall, what is the conclusion between whether or not real estate is better or stocks is that it just really depends on your current life situation. But I would probably say for the average person that watches my videos, which I know probably happens to be someone that's a millennial, that is maybe fresh out of college, or at least maybe about in the 10 to 20 years out of college horizon, then I would say probably the stock market is going to be a lot easier and a better investment for most people. The barrier to entry is a lot lower, it's a lot easier, it's a lot more simple, it's a lot more liquid, so you can sell and cash out and jump in and out as much as you want to, and it's just a lot more of an easier time in my opinion for the majority of people. But of course, at the end of the day, this is really just going to depend, so feel free to leave a comment down below what it's like in your particular situation, because I'd love to hear it from you guys, and it's always great to hear from you guys, even simple hellos. So with that being said, if you guys made it to the end, thank you guys for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell if you guys enjoyed this video, which if you guys watched to the end, hopefully you guys did, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.